So, welcome back. This is Spark Up Your Life workshop series, and this is part three. And before we go to the part three, let's just recap what we're doing here, where we started from, and just slowly recap everything that we went through so far. So, for those of you joining first time, this is a workshop presentation. So, I'm going to ask you questions, and your job is to answer those questions. So, take your time as I'm talking. Uh, Take paper, pen, prepare yourself, and answer as many of the questions you can, and just have fun. So the question is, can you answer the question? So in previous sessions, previous parts, we started with the question: Why are you here? What's your goal? What's your intention? What do you want? And in order for you to answer the further questions, you actually need to know the reason why you're here. And further questions we answered was how the spark of life looks like for you, where you're now, and what's stopping you from getting there. And then we moved on why I'm here. Obviously, I'm here to help you out to get yourself more excited about life, resolve problems, get unstuck. And of course, I also have an offer of inviting you to join for a deeper self-love journey in 12-week program, and details are here. And then we discovered that there's a secret, and the secret is the thoughts become things. And obviously, many successful people have come before us and shared their secrets. And first of all, you can be successful. There are different ways how to get there. You have a choice which way you want to get there. There will be challenges. You need to have a motivation to overcome those challenges because you will have to do the work. And went over different ways of choices, what you can choose, and then the concept that the best motivation anyone can have is feeling good. Very simple, anyone can understand, and very easy to measure. And one of the best ways how to feel good is self-love, because sometimes when you talk about feeling good, it's a bit vague. People don't. It's like it's not sustainable. Self-love is a bit more direct. Self-care, and I really love that we went through the definition and answering the question, how can you self-love help you, is in a sense that self-love is a very simple definition, is regard for one's own well-being and happiness. And then we discovered that stress is the one thing that can help you measure how much you love yourself, and if you're like a compass, if you're actually going in the right direction. And a flow state is a really amazing tool how to guide you towards staying on a path. And then we went to the idea that you actually need to know what does self-love mean to you. Obviously, if you don't believe it's something good, you're not going to follow through. So you have to be clear, what does it mean to you? To me, it means self-care and being happy. To you might be something else. And then we went through three aspects of self-love. So first of all, we discovered that self-love is having awareness and taking action on that awareness. And we have three categories: physical, emotional, mental health. And you have to take care of all of them at the same time. And you obviously want to know which ones you fall short of and which ones you're really good at already. And then we went deeper on in the three categories. And for example, in physical health, moving, nurturing, and resting. So moving and making exercise. So there's expansion. So there's getting more energy, rising up, nurturing, maintaining that you're still going forward, and resting, sleeping, recovering. And same principles apply to emotional mental health. We went through that. And then we asked the questions, what must you do to love yourself more? Because there's no upper ceiling. So there's always that more level up that you can do, love yourself more. And then we went through the concept of flow state and the key ingredients for maintaining flow. And it's related to this challenge and skill balance. So you have to always take care that you have right amount of challenge in your life or appropriate skill level you have. So you either can raise your challenge level or raise your skill level to get where you want to be, to get into the flow state. And then we went through the key of the being successful, making good decisions, which is awareness. And then we went through the different ways how to raise your awareness. One of them is hiring a coach, having a guide, talking to a friend, someone who already has a bit more awareness than you do, or sometimes just having a different perspective and a trusted perspective. you have ability to get out of the unresourceful state. And then we link together awareness with the flow, and how usually uh, having a low awareness gives you um, low predictions of your ability to succeed. Therefore, you project more challenges than actually are, and less likely to take any action. And there's really amazing quote: the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek," which kind of leads for you to understand that these are things you need to fear. You not have to face them one way, another way, and resolve them. And then we went through the stress management. One of my favorite things in the world is stress management, because stress is something really insightful, like any negative emotion. And first of all, you have to understand what stress is. It's not all bad, it's not all good. So stress is just tension, inner tension, some kind of resistance. And then it's realizing, is it holding me back from something, or is it protecting me? So what's it here for? And then all kinds of interesting things. We went to an emotional spiral, emotional bandwidth, all kinds of other stuff. And in short, stress is the thing that will help you to stay on track. If you feel stressed, that means something wrong. Either you have to adjust your trajectory, or actually keep on moving, depending on where you're at. And you will know that by resolving the stress. So then we went on reminding yourself, so why you're here? What do you really want? And a gratitude is an amazing way how to get back to what you want. Because from law to actually know that if you chase what you don't want, or what you want, or run away, and if you have what you want, you will get back. Anyway, I really love the how you call plays of words, and we went through the, if you want a great life, you have to have life full of greatness, so you have to be grateful. Feeling is a key, so you have to feel good. And one of the best ways how to get there is gratitude. So always focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. That's the key here. And then we finished off with, yes, we finished off with a habit. So obviously, you don't want to have just the short-term success. You want actually permanent change. And one way to do it is focus on habits. And then we went through this loop of thoughts. Thoughts become feelings. Feelings cause actions. Sustained actions create habits, and habits create identity. And identity dominates the thoughts you're having. And you can break this loop anywhere you want. But most importantly, you can work on creating habits. And then we went through the structure, how to create lasting habits, so that tax what kind of identity you have. And this is the start of the part 3. So the question for you right now is, can you add more detail to what you want? So you already know what you want. And the next step to make it more amazing, make it faster, make it more sustainable, is asking yourself, can you add more detail? So get more clarity. And the tool for getting more clarity is visualization. So first of all, you're really contemplating the outcome. So what's the outcome? What do you want? You add more clarity, you add more detail, you add more feeling. That means when you visualize, for example, you want to buy a new car. So what kind of car you want? What color it is? What the brand it is? Is it important or is it not? So add clarity. If you don't care about the color, awesome. That's more clarity. You don't care about color. That's more clarity. So you can add more detail by fusion or by specifying. And I invite you to actually write down that those details you gain. Because sometimes you go to the exercise, you visualize, you have so much clarity, you're in good mood, and next day you forget everything. And it's usually a good idea to, when you're in good mood, take notes, write down insights, and then later on when you're not in good mood, oh yeah, I got this clarity about exactly what I want. Second thing is resistance and fear. Quite often people say, I'm not visual, I can do it. There's all kinds of resistance coming up. And 99% people, most likely including you, are visual. And the proof of that is if you can close your eyes and imagine opening up the door you have, going outside, which side is the handle, which hand goes up, that means if you can imagine it, that means you're visual. As simple as that. If you park your car, if you can remember where you parked it, that means you're visual. That means you can remember where it was. And why visualization is so important is because there's this thing in our brain called reticular activating system, RAS. And how it works is search for patterns. And you can program it basically. And you can program it by asking questions or having emotionally charged experiences or charging your thoughts with emotions. So basically, you're training your brain, spot opportunities, spot patterns, and spot anything, situation that's something. So basically, telling your brain what's important for me. And if, for example, you want to earn more money, you can tell your brain, find me opportunities how to earn more money. If you want to find a new partner, relationships, so you can train your brain to search for people that are actually you like. So you can ask questions, what kind of people I want, how do I get that kind of person? So you can train your brain by asking questions. And because our brain really loves solving puzzles, solving problems. If you don't give your brain problem to solve, it will come up with a problem and create problems in your life. So you don't, most likely, you don't want to do that. You actually want a nice, peaceful life. So it's in your interest to actually give problems to your brain. And therefore, I encourage you to do visualizations, ask those questions, so your brain actually becomes your friend and leads you in the direction where you want to. Second thing when you do visualizations is that there is no upper ceiling to what you can imagine. So there might be an upper ceiling mentally for you, what you think you can't achieve today, what kind of success you have, depending on past you had, limitations you have. However, when you're imagining, there is no upper ceiling what you can imagine. So you can imagine as magical, as big things as you want. Only things that limits your imaginations are all limiting beliefs, which actually don't exist in your imagination. It's like watching a movie. Like there's no reason for you to not be able to imagine all kinds of crazy things, flying aliens, you flying out in the middle of the air, levitation, all kinds of stuff. So literally, there is no limit to imagination. Everything is possible. And that's exactly what I encourage you when you do visualization, imagination. Go big. Go say, yeah, why not? And then you can start challenging your beliefs. So why is not that possible? Why is not possible for me to learn it? Actually, it is possible. It's just that my belief is that it could be too costly for me to learn this skill of levitation. I probably will need to spend decades in a secluded cage or cave somewhere in Himalaya or somewhere. And I don't want that kind of lifestyle. So therefore the price is too high. So even though it's possible, I can't imagine it is like, well, under my current beliefs, that price for that the skill is kind of not interesting. So I'm not imagining. But why? Maybe I won't imagine. So please don't limit yourself of thinking big. And sometimes when you have these mental blocks of imagining yourself, there's really amazing example of losing weight. For example, if you're really chubby guy and really cannot imagine yourself being slim and with all kinds of muscle around, and it's really hard for you to know it's not possible. And it's like you have this internal resistance. We all have it. So in one way or another, we all have this resistance. So sometimes you really can't imagine those big dreams because suddenly it's become so real. It's about me becoming slim. No, it's not possible. I cannot imagine. It's like, oh, you're already going for a next step. I will not be able to do it. It's too expensive, too time costly, too painful. No, I don't want that. And therefore, your brain is trying to protect you from coming into these thoughts. And in this case, what you want to do is do incremental process. Okay, you cannot imagine yourself, let's say you weigh 100 kilos, and you cannot imagine yourself through, let's say your ideal weight is 65 kilos or 70 kilos, and that's your ideal weight. And you can imagine yourself in that state, in that physiology. So what you can do is, okay, if I cannot imagine me being 65 kilos, maybe I can imagine myself being 90. And then you say, yeah, I can imagine myself 90. So basically imagine yourself being 10 kilos less. So imagine, yeah, I can be 90. And then as you imagine 90, yes, from that state, you kind of get comfortable being 90. And instead, can I imagine myself 85? And you ask, oh, and then you gradually imagine yourself from 89, 80, 70, 75, and then you go gradually lower yourself to the lowest possible. And it might take you days, might take you weeks, might take you months to go to imagining. I'm not saying actually becoming. The first step is actually we're talking about imagining. So your task right now is imagining yourself being 65. If you're target is 65. And while I'm talking about these examples, what I want you to do right now is not only listen to what I'm telling you, is actually think, how does this, what I'm talking to you right now, is helping you to get more detail to what you want. So your problem might not be weight, your problem would be more money, or your problem could be relationships. So when I'm talking about this example, incremental progress and working yourself as a muscle to imagine yourself towards your ideal or above your ideal, which is also really great idea. You want to ask yourself, how does idea of me imagining myself closer and closer to where I want help myself? And the next thing, what you want to do when you're working on visualization is having inspirational images and reminders. Because we go through our day, we have all kinds of distractions, we get into our head, we have all kinds of problems. And when we're in unresourceful state, it's hard for us to go and imagine our ideal world or your ideal weight, relationship, money, and everything else. It can be hard. And for us to get back into that state and make this process easier, because obviously we want easy life, we want to cheat a bit, we want to hack ourselves. It's really awesome to have a stack of inspirational images and reminders. And it's awesome to have those reminders laid out where you can see them often, like a fridge, bathroom, anywhere you can imagine. Another really awesome visualization technique is timeline work. And when you visualize stuff, sometimes when you have resistance and imagining things, it's usually resistance comes from you imagining it for yourself. So you can dissociate. No, I imagine for my future self. I imagine for celebrities, some sorts, and then you can play with these things. And it's easy for example, for me to imagine I can have success in 10 years time, and then I can imagine myself being dissociated in 10 years time. Like, and I'm really getting comfortable, and then I go next step. Maybe I can imagine myself like associative, imagine myself being in the position of being successful in 10 years, and then you get comfortable, see how I could feel successful, look around, see the things I could see, feel things I could feel, think like, observe what kind of thoughts I would be thinking as successful in 10 years time. And then you kind of slide back a slider. It's really amazing trick I learned in NLP and Pt.3 is that it kind of starts sliding from 10 years. What if this sequence, the things I'm already feeling right now, what if this thing happening 5 years from now, 3 years from now, and suddenly you come 10 months from now, and suddenly it's now, wow, I'm the man that I want to be right now. So you kind of trick yourself, pulling yourself forward, and it's not a problem if you suddenly say, no, I doesn't feel like something's like resistance come. So you slide yourself from the future back to the present, and somewhere in the future you kind of have this block. No, I cannot imagine. That's fine. You work towards it. You know, acknowledge it. Next time you try again, maybe you can get a bit closer. So fine and all awesome. But the idea is to have those feelings right now, experience them as right now. And on the right side of the presentation we have, you can get this presentation if you don't have on my website, b.ostmans.com/spark dash your dash up dash life. So spark up your life. Oh, okay, I messed up in my spelling, but basically it's spark up your life with that. And that's the website you can get this presentation from, and then you can see all the details and reminders, so you don't have to make those heavy notes, because what you want to do right now is answer the question, can you add more detail? And when you're working with visualization, there's a couple of things you want to be playing around with. Association, disassociation. So most of the time, associated image, that means I'm feeling like I am right now, first person view, that brings you more into the scene and brings more results. Sometimes it's good to have dissociation. So play around with these modalities. Just in the beginning, just observe. Then colorful versus black and white. Then dark or bright, big or small, close or far. You just observe these modalities, and then of course you can play around with sounds. If visual is not your thing, not your strongest modality, don't worry, because that doesn't mean anything. That means except that you haven't developed the skill, or you have perception that being visual means I have vivid imagination, I can see everything as in daylight. It's not true for most people, unless you've been working in the skill for decades and decades. Maybe some people are like that. For most people, being visual is being able to imagine something vaguely in a fog and stuff like that. That's awesome. You can always add some sounds, you can add some feelings, you can add some smells, tastes, and you can play around with past, present, future. And reminder for you is, if I can imagine it, I can achieve it. And other way around, if you already have resistance for yourself, imagining yourself successful, then what are odds of you actually thinking the actions you need to be taking, thinking about actions you're taking, and actually taking those actions? Well, odds are quite slim. So your training ground, if you're afraid to take real life actions toward the things you want to do, your playground is visualizations. Can you actually imagine you taking those actions? It's a safe environment. There's no judgment there, no nothing. You can actually imagine yourself in a safe environment to train yourself. A lot of athletes and Olympic athletes and hyper achievers, high performance, use visualization, and you should too. The next thing is, next question you want to ask yourself, are you really still on the right track? You really want to routinely check into yourself and make sure that you're still on positive track. And one of the best ways how to make sure that you're still on positive track is observe your thinking. And the technique is positive self-talk. And before we go into the topic of positive self-talk, it's really, really important for you to understand, what does positive self-talk actually mean? So in very simple terms, positive, it doesn't mean wishful thinking, all these things. It could mean that, but not necessarily mean. What positive means is simply thinking what you want. So that means positive thinking doesn't mean ignoring all the obstacles, ignoring challenges. Positive thinking means addressing what is and trying to imagine as best as I can, addressing the thing I actually want. Negative thinking, on the other hand, is thinking about what you don't want. So, for example, if you want to get into a relationship, you want to resolve a fight, negative thinking, you would be trying to find all the ways how everything's going to be screwed up, how you're going to get into more and more arguments, and thinking about arguments. Positive thinking is actually thinking what's the best positive outcome. So you start from the outcome. So the idea is that instead of going through all possible negative scenarios, how can things go wrong, handling all the possible objections, which is actually a nice technique as well. However, this technique only comes handy once you know what you want. And often our brain forgets what we want. And this technique of objection handling is only relevant when you have end in mind. So always observe, do you know what you want? That's a positive thinking. Positive thinking doesn't mean neglecting and discouraging yourself from facing the fear. Actually, you have to face the fear. However, you only have to face the fear, and only thing I'm going to encourage you to face the fear is when you really know why are you facing the fear, and you can only do that when you know what's the outcome and what do you want. So that was really this important distinction. What does positive self-talk means? It means starting with the end in mind. What do you want? And it's really easy once you go into the shadow work, facing objection handling and resolving any kind of objections and problems in your mind. When you do that, it's really easy to get caught up into the trap and spend too much time in the trap. You always want to make sure on your awareness level, emotional level, and if you start feeling low, that means you're too low and you're not resourceful anymore. You always want to have easy path, easy resistance. You want to be as resourceful as possible. That means feeling as good as possible. So therefore, positive thinking is really, really awesome way to do. And then the next question comes, how do I do that? And simplest and most easiest way how to think positively is guide your mind with positive questions. And you probably have noticed that by the question you ask, it already implies what kind of answer you will get. So for example, you can have closed questions and open questions. Closed questions is yes and no questions. Open questions actually reflect, and open questions are the questions you cannot respond with simply yes and no. Let's give you an example. The simple example is yes and no questions. Will I get married? This question already implies two possible scenarios. I will get married or I will not. This is really not this question I found not really positive because it doesn't give you any kind of insights. There's no action towards it. Like there's no usefulness to this question. So that's not really useful question, because when you ask this kind of question, the only thing you have is more doubt. So you basically ask for doubt, because if you don't know if you will get married, unless you have specific plans already, unless you have a partner, you don't really know if you get married. So this question brings you more doubt into your mind. So it's not really useful question to ask. Better question you can ask is, do I want to get married? That's more resourceful. It's still closed question. It's still yes and no, but this question actually asks, what do you want? Do I want to get married? And then you can write down all the positives. Why do I want to get married? And then you can write all the negatives. What's the negative for me being married? Then you can go for a no. Why I don't want to get married? All the positives for not being married, and all the negatives for not being married. Then you compare. Then you ask a couple more questions about what are my values, what are my things, and a nice, awesome questions is why. Once you realize that like there's possibility that is more likely for me to want to be married. Once you have this kind of feeling, then you can have this really powerful question: why would I want to be married? Because you already kind of know this experience I want to have. So then you ask yourself, why would I want to be married? And then by asking this question, you automatically program your mind to find all the positives. So you're more likely not to have more larger stack of things. Why would you want to be married? The negatives of being married, and the positives you have will more likely outweigh the negatives of not being married. So by asking a question, why would I want to be married? You're more likely to receive positive answers. What's the positives for being married? Another way around, if you decide not to be married, then what's the drawbacks of me being married? And the beautiful thing about mind is that regardless of which question you will ask, you will always find answers for what you will ask, and you shall receive, and you shall receive what you ask. And if you ask for the question, why should I get married? You will get the answers for why should you get married. Unless there's really unless you get distracted by question, shouldn't I get married? And then you get hijacked by your brain, and then you focus on no. That could happen as well. But generally, what you ask, you get. Another thing when you're talking about the positive self-talk is search for a gift. So quite often we have a problem. There's someone yelling at you. There's someone stole from you. You had a fight with a partner. Whatever the problem happened, is that it's easy to get stuck in this negative downward spiral. What you can do is search for a gift, and you can ask yourself, is there anything I can learn from this experience? And then when you ask this positive question, is there anything you can learn from this experience? Is there something I gain from the experience? Is there something valuable that I could get in the future from this experience? And then once you have this positive affirmation, then it's easier for you to say, it's actually quite nice. I had this negative experience in the past. So that's one way to approach search for gift. Another way how to search for gift is asking yourself, how did it make me stronger? So you can approach negative situations in your life as simply training to get stronger. I really love the gym exercise, which simply means that as I carry heavier weights, as I do more weights, then my muscles get stronger. And that's exactly what's happening. As I get into more uncomfortable situations, I get more stronger. And then you can ask yourself, how did this situation made me stronger? And then at some point you can forgive yourself. You can get into a resourceful state. You found a gift. You found something good into the situation that happened to you. And final thing is, whenever you get doubts, the best way how to deal with doubts is doubt the doubts. And you doubt with questions. So for example, you want to get a new job, and then you doubt, maybe I'm not worthy enough, maybe I'm not skilled enough, and maybe there's too much competition, and you start doubting yourself. And once you start doubting yourself, you're unlikely to show up your best for the interviews, best for the writing resume. So you're not showing up your best, and you might not even show up in the first place because you're so burdened by the doubts that you're not even taking action. You're not even sending out CVs. And while I'm still talking, I want you to remember your task right now is listen to me and ask, are you still on the right track? And how can you improve your positive self-talk? What are the specific categories, specific things I usually doubt myself on, and how can I doubt them? So what I want you right now is think about how can I doubt my doubts? What's the area in my life I can doubt? And yeah, that's what you want to do. Want to ask yourself, how is it not true? And what kind of action would I be taking if I was not doubting myself? So that's the idea. So whenever you feel like you're limiting yourself, you want to doubt your doubt, because idea is how to approach it. The question is, are you still on the right track? Because this question implies that you know where you want to be. So you know where you want to be. You already know what kind of things you should be doing, but then you have this block. But I cannot do it. Every time you have a but, that's a doubt. But there's too much competition. But they ask for more qualification. The thing is, you can doubt your doubt. Well, I'm not. Am I really sure? Is it really true that I know 100% that the qualification they seek is what I don't have? And then you can actually accept yourself. Well, I don't know. And then you're more likely to take the action you need. And that means you're more likely to be on the right track by having those positive self-talk. The next thing is ask yourself, what do I need to hear? Sometimes you really don't know. What do you need? So what the positive self-talk sounds like to you? So you went to the previous exercise and you started observing all kinds of doubts, all kinds of bad things. You started noticing negatives and positives. And what you want to do, once you find these obstacles, you want to turn them into the positives. And you want to do it from really cool and empowered state. And what I really encourage you is use the power of affirmations, because when you're really inspired, you have really nice ideas coming in, and then you can find the things you would need to hear yourself more and more and more. So for example, you'd start doubting yourself, will I get this position? Am I qualified enough? And then you realize, well, it might be that I am qualified enough because I don't know if they're searching for someone else. And at this point, you start thinking, okay, I resolve this affirmation, this issue for myself, this doubt right now. It's resolved right now, but it might come back. And if I'm in unresourceful state, I might not be able to remember the thought process I had. So therefore, I need to remember this thing that I resolved for myself. So therefore, it's really awesome to use this technique called affirmations. So I just try to explain you why affirmations are so powerful. It's just a nice way how to program your brain and tell the brain what's important to you. And there are a couple of key things you need to remember when you use affirmations. The first thing that's really important, yes, you can chant things over and over and over again from state to board. I am successful, I am wealthy, I have an amazing partner in my life, I'm abundantly rich, I am a millionaire, I'm a billionaire, but there's no emotion attached to it. Yes, over time, if you do it, persistent in life, if you really, really put your effort into it, at some point your subconscious mind will just break through and just say, maybe I just start accepting this silly guy telling me I'm abundant, and maybe at some point you start taking actions abundant people take. However, this journey of just frequency, applying the frequency repetition, which is really important. Yes, it is important to apply frequency, how often you say affirmation. However, it's a slow process to use just frequency. What you really want to do is focus on feeling, because if you have really highly charged positive emotion, really excitement associated to the affirmation, it is much more likely to go through your subconscious mind and plant a seed in there, and emotion will actually act as a fertilizer for the seed to grow, and it's more likely to have the affirmation work much sooner and much faster. And that's why I'm saying feeling is the key. So if you're not having a feeling, fine, work on frequency, make it more often, However, make a note and try to ask yourself, how could I get more feeling to it? How could I get more positive feeling to it? So the thing you don't want to do is make yourself guilt, shame, and fearful that this is not going to work. I'm feeling a feeling. So you don't want to get into this kind of thinkings. What you want to do is, okay, I acknowledge the fact that I'm not 100% of my time, or you don't. You also want to acknowledge the fact that frequency will help you. So you do want to go through the exercise of affirmations, even if you don't have the feeling, because it still works, or it always works less. And then there are a couple of really amazing tricks I can offer you, amazing hacks that can help you to get that feeling. So the first and most common way of affirmation, which is really, really powerful, is I am affirmations. For example, I am wealthy. I am magical. I am magical life coach. So these are identification affirmations. The reason why they work is you reprogram your identity. So if you're, for example, a chubby big guy, you have some excess weight, you have some fat to lose, you're most like 100% your identity is you're a chubby big guy. Because if your identity wasn't like that, by the time you got there, that's your identity. If you've been there for a while, that's your identity. So what you want to do in order for you to get to your ideal weight, what you want to do is change the identity. So what you want to do is, I say, I am lean, I am sexy, I am powerful, I am muscular, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, whatever you want to say, I am. And then you want to visualize that thing, you want to add all the other hacks we taught, but you want to use I am. What is less powerful is thinking about I want to be that, because that kind of puts, by the saying I am, it puts into the future, it's a bit more distant, so it's less likely for you to associate of that image. So it will work, however, it's less likely to work fast. Unless there's really high energy, high emotion to it, then it will work faster. So it might seem a bit complicated right now, but what I want to tell is that I am is a powerful way of doing things. So if you say I am wealthy, that's a bit more powerful than I want to be wealthy. Because I want to be wealthy, it's just desire. Or it's also really powerful to plant desires. Because if you plant really powerful desire into your subconscious mind, it says, I want that. Even though your image says I'm not wealthy, or I'm not healthy. If you have strong desire, I want to be wealthy, I want to be healthy, that you will drag yourself, whatever pains, whatever struggle your subconscious mind will drag. I want that. So keep in mind with grain of salt, yes, I am powerful. Or if you get more stronger feeling of saying I want, that's the key. And I will skip the steps because I have four different steps. There's usually progression when I'm chanting my affirmations. I start with I am. And if I don't feel that I am, I might try to do I want. I want to be wealthy. I want to be healthy. And the thing that almost always works is when I cannot get the feeling, because my outcome is, okay, I'm chanting affirmations, you know what I want. I'm always thinking, what kind of feeling I have. And or sometimes there's emotional block, something blocking me. And thing that always works for me the best is I love, because I can always, yeah, I love being wealthy and I love being healthy. Who would disagree with? I love being healthy. Everyone would agree. Yeah, I kind of love being healthy and wealthy. So you can always go towards love. Or if you kind of feel like that's not true, it kind of feels a bit distant and feels strange to say love. So that's why it's not sometimes good to go straight to I love, because it kind of feels this resistance. So therefore, there's a couple of steps in between I am and I love. There's a couple of steps between. So for me, I'm really curious person by nature. So for me, asking questions, what if? So what if I'm already healthy? What if I can be healthy? So you want to ask yourself curiosity-based questions. So if you kind of feel numb, kind of like I'm a bit bored or I'm a bit stressed, so like yeah, but I have this project, but if like for example you have this thought in your mind, I want to be healthy, but I have this project to work on. And if I don't work this project, I will not get paid, and I will not blah blah blah. And then therefore, there's something else is more important. And there's interferes with your desire to be healthy. Therefore, it's kind of like, yeah, but then it says like, maybe I shouldn't go exercise, maybe I shouldn't take breaks. And these cases, it's really important for you to ask, wait, and invite curiosity. Wait, what if I can get the job done and be healthy? And then you kind of start bringing curiosity in and kind of say, yeah, what if I can have wealth and health at the same time? And then you can ask questions like, how come I am already healthy and wealthy? And as soon as you ask, how, yeah, as soon as you get curiosity in, you start feeling, yeah, I'm kind of curious. Maybe there is a possibility of me being healthy and wealthy at the same time. And then you start thinking, maybe I can get rid of the stress. Maybe I can have both. Listen, how come I am already healthy and wealthy? As you start working yourself into identity of being healthy and wealthy, you start thinking, yeah, maybe it's a good idea to take a break, and maybe it's a good idea to have a sip of water and hydrate myself. Because I've been talking, it's a good idea to have some water. Another thing is, once you get into curiosity mode, you want to go back to the identification mode. And another nice hack that I really love is adding some emotion, like already implying that I have some emotion to my affirmation. So one of the really amazing templates of how to build affirmation is, I am so happy and grateful. Now that, which comes from Bob Proctor, originally the first guy I'm heard this information from. So basically, you could say, I am happy that I'm healthy. So instead of you trying to figure out how it will feel when you're healthy, you say, yeah, I'm happy to be healthy. So you already implied a feeling there. So for you, implying this feeling is more likely to actually feel happy. So you don't have to guess. So it's really powerful tool when you're kind of a bit low, but kind of like numb. So yeah, I can always be happy. Yeah, I can be happy about being healthy. So you, by the saying, I'm so happy to be healthy, for the first couple of times, it might not sound true. And I'm not happy, but after a while, it kind of like, what if I'm happy? And then it kind of like, yeah, I can be happy. Yeah, and then kind of at some point you might get agreement. And the final one, really want to drive this down is that I love being healthy. And then by saying I love being healthy, you could start thinking of times when you were healthy, and it's like, yeah, I think that, or you can imagine what would it be for me to be healthy, and then you can start imagining, how do other people feel when they're healthy? Maybe you get a bit jealous, like, and you tell like, yeah, that people can run and go up the stairs, like, yeah, I would love that. Yeah, and then you can say, yeah, I would love to be healthy. The next one is, there will come time when you're stuck. And when you're stuck, a really amazing and one powerful tool you can use is breath. And the question I want to ask you is, what will you do when you're stuck? What if I am stuck? So you kind of like, everything's going well, you do visualization, you do affirmations, you do all the things you've spoken. Before you do the stress management, you take care of yourself, but suddenly you're stuck. And really powerful tool, how to get yourself unstuck, is work with your nervous system. Because sometimes, because we have these three bodies, we have mind, we have a physical body, we have emotions, heart, and sometimes we get so stuck in our brain, and our brain overtakes our physical body. We get anxiety, we start feeling all kinds of overwhelm and all kinds of things, and we literally hijack our nervous system. And the best way how to take control back over your nervous system when it's completely haywire is with breath. And breath, as powerful tool breath is, it may take time for you to actually work through some serious trauma, some serious anxiety or panic attacks. So be patient with yourself. And why I'm saying that, as powerful as breath is, if your mind is keep on producing the stress and keep on producing the same cause, it might take a while for you to use this powerful tool. So it's more like okay, breath might be as powerful as this, like 99 out of 100, but if your mind is going 100 out of 100, then the mind is still more powerful. And even if your breath work is 99 out of 100, and your mind is going, let's say 20, you kind of feel like, my mind is not so bad. If you have built up stress over 1,000, you're kind of like accumulated stress. It may take a while for you to build down and get rid of the excess stress you're being familiar. It's kind of chipping down 100 times. Imagine you have a ratio of 100. Let's say you have a stress accumulated 1,000. Each second, each breath you take of 99. So imagine it takes for you to have at least 100 breaths to get back down to the zero. And if you're producing the stress of 20 with each breath, so that means you're adding back 20. So basically, your efficiency of your breath is only all again a little bit tricky. It was 79. So basically 79. So basically, even if you're working your 100% with your breath, its efficiency is not 100 because you have your mind working against you. So these are, as you can imagine, it can get a bit complicated here. And therefore, it can be complicated. Even if it's complicated, your focus right now is just focused on your breath. And what I really want to understand are principles, because if you understand principles, suddenly working with the breath is really, really simple. So what you want to know is that there's two types of nervous system. Is sympathetic, which is fight and flight, which is usually responds with a faster, more shallow, and it's focused on inhale. So once you realize that your sympathetic fight and flight stress response system is linked to the inhalations, fast breathing and shallow breathing, that means if you want opposite, if you want parasympathetic response, if you want to decrease stress, which is you want to work on parasympathetic nervous system, which is relaxation or rest, that means that you want to focus on exhalations, make them more slower and more deeper. Obviously, you don't want to go from to, so you don't want to introduce additional stress into your body when you're overly stressed, or you don't want to introduce another stress by going for extremes. So from being highly stressed to really zen, really force yourself body. Because if you try to force yourself going from this high stress state, really low stress state, that transition is drop. And for the body, that's a big stress. So you don't want to introduce too big stress into your body. So be mindful. So therefore, I usually advise people to be mindful about these practices. And therefore, I really always teach my clients, understand the principles. So if you're highly stressed, your outcome is to get more relaxed, more rested, and you want to work on parasympathetic system. That means you want to focus on your exhalations, whatever breath technique you want to do, you want to focus on your exhalations more. Even mindful inhale and mindful exhale, you just focus more attention into your exhale, and that fact alone, as you focus more attention into your exhale, will slow down your breathing, make it more deeper. You can actually consciously add more details. You can make your exhalations slower, and you make your exhalations deeper. You can make your inhalations slower. You make your inhalations deeper, and you can make more. However, the idea is here, so you can do like the work on parasympathetic relaxation nervous system works when you work on exhalation, slow and deep. So if you work on inhale slower and deeper, you also want to work on exhales as well. So you kind of like, if you work on inhale slow, inhale deep, exhale slow, exhale deep, you have 5 things you're working on towards parasympathetic system. So even if you're focusing on inhale, which is activating yourself, and total, in grand total scheme, you're slowing yourself down. So make sure it's in total kind of like roughly going towards the direction of resting yourself. And for example, you have these patterns. You most likely have heard about 4-4-4-4 box breathing, which means inhale for count of 4, hold for count of 4, out for count of 4, and hold your breath for count of 4. And even though this technique is awesome, this is very, very subjective, because first of all, no one actually ever says how fast you should be counting. And under the stress, obviously, you may have some kind of like, I have to follow my yoga teacher. He said to count 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I'm not counting in this rate, I'm a failure. Not true. So you might be making a rookie mistakes of counting too slow or counting too fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these kind of things, you don't really want to be attached to specific numbers until you actually know yourself, until you actually know your normal regular breathing. It is awesome to know your numbers. So for example, when I know I'm not stressed, I do these techniques, I go to this, I better know roughly my regular box breathing is on this kind of rhythm, roughly 1, 2, 3, 4. If I have this kind of rhythm, maybe my regular count is 4. So under stress, 2 is awesome. Having 2, starting with 2, that means I'm stressed. That means, okay, I starting with a 2. Okay. And then you can gradually go down to the 3, and you go maybe, go to the 4. But the idea is to be mindful about those numbers and keep the pattern. So more focus on the pattern than actual number. Another thing what I want to mention, when you design these breath techniques, you can design them easily. It's quite simple. When you introduce breath hold itself is additional stress, and it's under certain conditions really often to introduce extra stress, because extra stress causes a distraction. Why it's a good thing? Good thing inducing extra stress because the stress you're introducing is physical stress. And you want the most stress you're having is mental stress. So original and the most the reason, the root cause why having stress in the first place is mental. So as long as you have this mental stress going, it's hard for you to fight the stress, even if it's going subconsciously. So you want to find some distraction, something distract you. And a good way of finding distraction is finding physical danger. Even if you're not in a physical danger, you can always hold your breath for a couple of seconds, and then you introduce physical danger. Oh, I'm lacking oxygen, there's danger. My survival is in question, so I need to breathe, and therefore you have this distraction. You always have to be careful about how long you breathe. Obviously, you can die if you don't, if you hold your breath too long, so be mindful about that. And then another technique is 4-7-8. In my personal experience, 4-7-8 is really kind of out of the bag for me if I'm under the stress. If I'm going with a slow count, under the stress, I'm not able to go for 4-7-8. And for me, sticking to these numbers actually induces too much stress. And when I actually want to get myself calmed down, what I want to do is go the easy resistance way, and having as little resistance as I can. Yes, it was a bit of pressure, but not too much. So obviously I want to go with the numbers that, for example, one way how to design the technique is when I'm playing on the numbers, if I want to relax myself, so I won't always keep my exhale slightly longer than my inhale. So this tips the technique more towards relaxation. So whatever the numbers are, so the awesome way how to design this technique is you inhale and count, whatever the speed, whatever you don't have to care. This is foolproof technique. So inhale for count of 1, 2, 3, and when it tells them, oh, okay, I know that I inhale for count of 3, I start exhaling. And if I want to relax, so I want to go for 3, which will make it neutral, so that means I'm not doing any damage. And if I focus on exhale for 1, 2, 3, I'm already focusing on exhale, so I'm really slowly making myself relaxed. Under most cases, it's a really good idea to increase at least by 1. It doesn't add too much stress. Adding a bit of stress, actually, it's a good thing, it's distraction. So if you inhale for count of 3, try to do it for count of number 4. So this is a nice way of how to see, how to make yourself relax. Inhale for count, observe the count, and try to exhale for at least 1 count more. And what's beautiful about this technique, you're always counting. You're always mindful about what count you inhale, and then you're counting for exhale, and you're being mindful what number should I hit. It's kind of a game. And because it's a game, you're already distracting your mind. Your prefrontal cortex have to engage your rational mind. And as you engage it, it distracts you. So it's a really amazing tool and an amazing technique. Another thing I wanted to mention for the breath, I really love Wim Hof method. When I was practicing it regularly, what I really noticed as I was timing my breath holds, as I was going through the technique, I realized that as I'm getting stressed, my breath hold is shorter. And as I know my average, as I time my averages, whenever I get shorter breath holds, I know there's some kind of stress. And often I will notice I get shorter breath holds. Why? An obvious conclusion, I'm stressed, but I don't feel stressed. And that gives me early detection. Oh, I'm stressed. I need to deal with something. And then I can go journal. I can do stress release. I can go for a walk. I can do some exercise. And that's why it's really, really awesome to have this awareness. And I think that's it for this today. We're stopping this workshop here on a breath. And before we go, I would really, really love to invite you. If you really enjoy these workshops, I will be running them for a while, sharing my knowledge, going on deep. As you can see, we didn't get too far ahead. I gave you so much insights, and we can always go deeper. And if you think that this is something you could enjoy in a group setting, it's going to be maximum 12 people for 12 weeks. So if you're interested in going deeper in support, get accountability, DM me, and I will give you all the necessary details for to proceed towards enrolling this program. And if something interesting, looking forward to seeing you. If not, I hope you gain enough value from this call and hope to see you on the next one. I wish you a magical day and have it awesome.